The first thing Amina noticed when she arrived at Obafemia Wallowa University was the noise, but the kind of living noise that made grief feel out of place. Voices bouncing off hostel walls, laughter spilling from the corridors, slippers slapping against tiled floors. Someone was shouting for a roommate who was already downstairs, someone else arguing over sockets. Moremi Hall did not feel like a place where people were allowed to be broken. Amina stood at the entrance with a worn travel bag pressed against her side, watching everything move without her. It had been 2 weeks since her father died. 2 weeks since her world stopped asking permission before collapsing. And now she was here standing in a place that expected her to continue and just move on. Her room was small, too small for the way her life now felt. 2 metal bunk beds, a table with chipped edges, a window that refused to close properly, letting in the soft hum of campus life. One corner was already claimed by someone else's suitcase. Her roommate, she would learn later her name was Toby, was sitting on the lower bunk scrolling through her phone like the world outside didn't matter. She looked up briefly. "Oh, you're the new one." Amina nodded. "Toby set up top bunk is free. Don't worry, I don't snore." A small laugh escaped Amina before she could stop it. That night's sleep did not come easily. The hostel did not sleep at all. Someone was singing of Key down the corridor. Someone was singing of Key down the corridor. Someone was frying noodles at midnight. Someone else was crying quietly, trying not to be heard. Amina lay on her back, staring at the metal frame above her. In her mind, her father was still alive. In places, he should no longer exist. In the way he used to call her my first light, on the way he insisted she eat before studying. In the way he stood at the gate the last morning she saw him alive, telling her not to be afraid of the world. She hadn't known that would be the last time. Her throat tightened. She turned her face into the pillow so no one would hear what she refused to let out. But grief doesn't ask for permission. It just stays. Morning came too quickly. Sunlight poured through the broken window like it didn't care who had cried the night before. Amina sat up slowly. Toby was already dressed. "You should come down early," she said. Amina managed a nod. When Toby left, she stayed seated on the bed. For a moment she didn't move. Then she whispered into the empty room so quietly it almost didn't exist. "I made it here, but I don't know how to stay." Amina almost got lost on her way to her first lecture. The campus looked different. In the morning, less like chaos and more like intention. Students moved with direction now. She did not feel planned. She followed a group of students into a large lecture hall and took a seat somewhere in the middle, careful not to sit too close to anyone. Her fingers stayed wrapped around the strap of her bag like it was the only stable thing she owned. The lecturer walked in 10 minutes later. "Introduction to Philosophy and Human Thought," he announced, dropping a stack of notes on the desk. Amina wrote the title down slowly. Philosophy. Human thought. The words that sounded like they belonged to people who had time to think without their hearts breaking. The lecture began. Ideas filled the room, questions about existence, meaning, identity. But Amina's mind kept drifting. To the hospital room. To the silence after her father's last breath. To the way her mother held herself together like a cracked cup refusing to spill. "What is truth?" the lecturer asked suddenly. "What is truth?" the lecturer asked suddenly. The room stayed quiet. Amina stared at her notebook. Truth, she thought. Is it truth when someone is here one moment and gone the next, and the world continues like nothing happened? She didn't write anything. By the time the lecture ended, her hand hurt from holding the pen too tightly without using it. Outside, groups formed instantly. Laughter again, plans again, movement again. "Amina," someone called. She turned too slowly. Toby waved from a small circle of girls. "We're going to get food, come." Amina hesitated. Her instinct was to say no. To go back to the hostel, to the silence. He understood. But Toby had already started walking toward her. So she followed. The cafeteria was loud in a different way. Not chaotic like the hostel. Plates clinking, money being counted, decisions being made quickly. Amina sat down with her food untouched for a moment. The girls talked around her. Assignments, boys' lecture notes, fashion, weekend plans. She smiled when it felt necessary, nodded when expected, but inside she felt like she was sitting behind glass. "Are you not eating?" Toby asked suddenly. Amina blinked. "I am just not hungry." That evening, she walked alone back to Moremi Hall. The sun was lower, now softer. Like even light was tired. She passed a small group of students gathered under a tree laughing loudly at something she didn't understand. One of them glanced at her briefly, then looked away. Not unkind, just unaware. That hurt more. In her room, Toby was asleep. The hostel was alive again, but Amina felt strangely further away from it than before. She sat on her bed and pulled out her small Bible from her bag. Her fingers hovered over it. Before university, she used to read it every night with her father. He would sit beside her, sometimes not speaking, just listening to the pages turn like it meant something. Now the silence between her and it felt heavier. She opened it anyway. A verse stared back at her, familiar but distant. She read it once, then again. But the words didn't land the way they used to. Her chest tightened. "God," she whispered, barely audible. "Are you still here?" No answer came. Only the sound of the hostel continuing without her. Amina closed the book slowly, and for the first time since arriving, she admitted something she hadn't said out loud. "I don't know how to be all these things at once."